James, if you've read a little bit of bio about James, most of us look at Couch to 5K. Not James. James did Couch to Ironman. So another inspirational story. So we're going to just welcome James and put him in the spotlight here.
Hello.
Hi, James. So you're not that long, a couple of months, I think, in We Can and We Will.
Yeah.
And you've done a bit of speaking as well. You've done some collaboration with some of the community, which is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
So we are absolutely delighted that you could speak with us this evening and share your incredible story. So that's it. We're going to give you a virtual warm welcome to the stage of We Can and We Will Talk here on Zoom. So take it away, James.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amanda, and hello to everyone. So yeah, it sounds like the triathletes and the Ironman have taken over this evening, because that's what I'm going to be talking about myself. So just to reiterate what Patrick was saying there in relation to Ironman. So just to give everyone the context again. So Ironman is a long distance triathlon. It's a one-day event. So you swim. So it's usually an open water swim. So it's going to be in the sea, a river, or some sort of lake. 2.4 mile swim. Then you cycle for 112 miles, and it's a full marathon at the end. So 140.6 miles. So that's the Ironman. And it's, as everyone asks in triathlon, it's one after the other. You just get out of your wetsuit, you change, you're onto your bike, you cycle. Once you finish that, you start your run. But that's where I got to. But I'm going to take you back a bit to show you, explain, or talk you through how I got there. And what I'm going to actually share this evening is actually what I think hopefully will be valuable to everyone, is 10 lessons that I've learned from my sort of journey towards Ironman. So if we take it back to say 2012, so September 2012, where I wasn't really in any sort of Ironman state, let's put it that way for sure. Very little physical activity. In fact, zero would be more accurate in sense of physical activity. Very poor diet. Wasn't really interested in a whole lot, just went to the pub on Friday night, just really had very little direction. So, and this is the first lesson that I'm going to share with everyone is you don't need to know what the ending will be. Because in 2012, I had not heard of Ironman. I did not know existed. I'd heard of triathlon, but I didn't know that Ironman was there. I didn't know what it was. So my initial goal in 2012 was I need to get a bit fitter. I want to lose some weight because I was getting married in the March 2013. That was my sole focus, was to get fitter and lose some weight so I could look good on my wedding day. That was my only goal and only thought I had in my head. So that very first lesson is you don't necessarily know where that journey will keep going. You don't necessarily need to know everything that's going to happen in front of you. It's great to have goals. It's great to know what's, something you can work towards, but some things will happen that you don't expect. And that's what I find really exciting. So from that sort of getting involved in sort of getting physical activity and sort of getting involved in getting fitter and healthier, I actually moved on to sort of like, okay, I like this. I'm getting fitter. I want to do more of this. I actually started getting into running. That's where I started. It was getting into 10Ks and into marathon running. And so whole of 2013, sort of I led to my first marathon in Dublin. And 2014 is when I really pushed into the love of marathon running. And whole 2014, I did something like, I did 4 marathons and 3 half marathons. So that was what it was consuming my life. And that's when I started to really sort of learn about Ironman. I was going to expos and people were asking me, or I was seeing promoted about triathlons, but I wasn't too sure. And then I started reading about Ironman. Very much, I recommend you watch the Ironman Dick Hoyt video that Patrick said about that. That takes it to another level. It's an incredible video if you just search that afterwards. But so I started to hear about what this Ironman was. And I was like, could I do this? And then it was in 2014 that they announced that Ironman was coming to Ireland and they were coming to Dublin. And that was it. I was like, okay, right, they're coming. I have to do this. Okay. And this is my second lesson. Sometimes you just have to dive in and figure it out later. So when Ironman announced they were coming to Dublin in 2015, the race registration went live on the 24th of November 2014, 14. I know the date because that was my birthday. So it went live on that date. Immediately was waiting 9 o'clock because I knew it was going to sell out, and I got my spot. It sold out in 4 hours, that race. Okay. I signed up for that half Ironman. So that was a half Ironman. I signed up for that race. I didn't know how to swim and I didn't own a bike. So I signed up for something when I couldn't do 2 of the disciplines. Couldn't swim, and I cycled, but it was when I was a teenager was the last time I did it. Didn't have a road bike, hadn't do anything. So I just knew though I had to do this. So that first thing of sometimes, you know what, you just got to sign up for something, go for it, and then figure it out afterwards. Because I'd registered, it forced me to do that things. I had to go for adult swim lessons. I had to then get into the pool. As soon as that January 1st hit of 2015, that was it. I was in the swimming lessons, and after that, I was just in the pool every day. And it took me, I'd say, the guts of 3 or 4 weeks before I could even just swim 25 meters of the pool without looking I was going to drown. Because I had signed up for the race, it forced me to do it. I had to go there and find a bike. I had to go buy my road bike. So by pushing myself into something without knowing all the answers, it made me get into and push myself into that position. The third lesson, and this is a real cliche one, but it really is true, is you get out what you put in. So for something to train for something like Ironman or a half Ironman, you have to commit yourself to do this, because if you want to be able to complete a half Ironman is 70 miles, a full Ironman is 140 miles. And as Patrick said in his talk, is like there are time cutoffs for these races, for these events. You have to complete a half Ironman is usually 8.5 hours. And you have to, for a full Ironman, you get 17 hours, depending on the course. That's the maximum time. And if you don't finish a discipline in the specific cutoff time, your race is over. That's it. Good luck. Goodbye. You don't cross the finish line. You don't get your medal. You do not get your finisher's t-shirt. So if you want to be able to experience everything and get the full amount out of the event, you have to put in the work. And that goes across to everything. And what I've taken from that is like, if I sort of don't complete a task, what I'm doing at the moment, whether it be in my day job or whether it be in what I'm trying to do as a coach now, and I really sort of look at myself, well, did you put in the effort? That's where you're getting the result from the effort that you put in. So when you put what you put into anything is where you're going to get that result out of it. My next lesson, when you really want something, when you really have a goal that you're working towards, you will figure out what's important and you will prioritize. Another thing it's almost what Ian just said there in with the talking, when he said about he was trying to focus then about what you can get rid of when you really, I really need to do that. And a similar thing for me is like, well, if I want to get better at this sport and to be able to complete these events, whether it be a marathon or an Ironman, I need to change certain things in my life. So again, for me, it was like, well, drinking on a Friday night is no longer going to work for me because I'm going to train for Saturday mornings. Saturday, if not to bore anyone, but his long training day has always been Saturday. So for Ironman, that's the shortest is going to be 2 hours, and the longest ever training session I done on a Saturday is 8 hours. So drinking on a Friday night is not conducive to training for 8 hours on a Saturday or training full time. So when you're into Ironman training, it's 5-6 days a week. So I had it, but I had put, and Ironman or marathons or whatever became so important to me that changing my food and my sort of drinking habits was almost a non-brainer. It's like, well, that's not important. That is not going to help me towards my goal. And this is not even a sort of like, I didn't even see it as a sacrifice. I was like, no. I want this more. This is so much more important to me than just having a beer. So it completely shifted the way I thought. So when you really have something that you want to work towards and you get clarity on what it is, then you will immediately go, well, actually, does this action or does this activity get me closer or further away to that? And then you say, well, if it's further away, we're going to get rid of it. If it gets me closer towards it, let's do more of it. So it really gives you that focus and prioritize of what's important. And it's one actually I love to go back to. If you think of, if you're struggling with something at a point in time, if you think of the word win, W-I-N, what's important now? And that really brings you back to focus. Well, actually, what do I need to do right now? What's important now? Because it brings you back to the present moment, and it goes, well, actually, this is what's important now, and this is what I'm going to do with it. So that was my fourth lesson. The fifth lesson from working towards Ironman and training towards it and changing that is focus and discipline. Now, I would lie to you if I was to say I enjoyed every training session and I couldn't wait to do every single one of them, because, you know, I really want to go to the pool tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, because that's the only time I could fit it into my training day. And, you know, after already doing whatever 8 hours this week, oh, great, it's a long swim this weekend on a Sunday evening and the World Cup's on, but I've got to go swim 4K. Did I want to do it every time? No. Did I miss training sessions? Absolutely. But again, it's like, but what it did bring to me was that focus and discipline of what I wanted. And it gave me, we all talk about routines, but again, if you have something that you are so focused on, you will create a discipline and a structure around it that there's no room elsewhere. So I literally I got the whiteboard. I wrote out on the whiteboard what I was going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, what my training was going to be each day, and how long I was going to train for. So I knew exactly, I had the programs, I knew what I was going to do. It was a case of, right, there's the program, there's the food, show up. It gave me that absolute focus and discipline of what I wanted to do. Eye on the prize, really so that laser focus that we all hear about. But it's the goal of it was just so ingrained in me that focus and discipline just came out of me. But what it does is it gives you that sort of those lanes you need to you can stick to, and it'll get you along that path. This all sounds really great so far. You got some great lessons from doing this and putting yourself out there and going for something sort of what people call extreme with Ironman. The next lesson, though, is want to bring us down a bit in some ways, not down, but give us a reality check, I suppose. Is not everyone will see what you're doing as a good thing. There will always be someone who will knock it, will think that's stupid. And a lot of the time, there'll be really people who you weren't expecting from, or people who be quite close to you. You know, it doesn't have to be a stranger. That, you know, it can be someone, it can be family, it can be friends. You can have this great idea, or I'm training for this, I'm doing that. And they can just think, what? You're crazy. What are you doing that for? A lot of people who ever get into fitness and they start going, oh, I'm eating this and the food, or I'm doing this and I'm going out and running, and people go, you crazy. They have this immediate reaction to sort of, you're losing your mind because you'd sooner, you know, go to bed early on a Friday night because you want to get up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning to train. So you're not always, whatever you do, you're not going to get positivity all the time. So you're going to have to accept the fact that not everyone will see what you see, but you have to just, and it's not to try and convince them. What I've learned is not to convince people. They don't have to see it. That is their choice whether they see it or not. But to be true to yourself is, you know what, I can see it. And that's what matters. And that's what will you feed off to push yourself forward for what you want to do and keep going with it. So it's accepting that whatever you want to do, whether it be in personal life or in a business capacity, is like, people won't always see it, but you've got to just keep believing what you're doing is the right thing. The next lesson, so, is the knock-on effect. And this is where it gets really exciting for me, because without taking those first steps, we go back to 2012 and thinking, right, I'm going to get fit for my wedding. I wouldn't have thought, oh, I'll try a half marathon, and then I'll try a marathon. And then I was like, I really like this. And then I heard of this thing called triathlon and Ironman. I'll do this. But what I had, all these other knock-on effects thing came from it. It's like, because the thing is, you change one part of your life, there's all these other things happen. So things like confidence, belief, what you think you actually can do, the impact you can have changes. So first things I trained as a personal trainer, because people were coming asking me about, oh, you're doing all this running, you're looking fit and you're healthy. What did you do? So I was talking to all these people. I was like, oh, I like this. This is quite interesting, helping people do this. So I qualified as a personal trainer. That gave me the opportunity to then work with Carl and Pat Henry in Dublin for 2 years in their gym part-time, and work with people in the day job that I do, and giving people couch to 5K tips, getting involved in well-being sort of communities. It then gave me this spur to think, oh, actually, I like this, but I have to do a bit more. I'll do life coaching. So I qualified as a life coach, and moved me into this next sort of venture that I'm trying to do. So once you get that momentum of doing something that takes you outside of your comfort zone, that knock-on effect can create new opportunities, new doors, new horizons. And that's sort of a really exciting thing. Three more, I think we've got 3 more lessons. So the next one, and it's one that I really do live by now, is what I call the opportunity mindset. So with Ironman, failure is inevitable. So I have missed races. I've missed cuts in races. So my first attempt at a full Ironman was in 2016 in the fabulous city of Chattanooga, Tennessee in the United States. The day that I did that event, it hit something like 40 degrees centigrade. And so on the bike, I just was cooked. I couldn't, I managed to finish the bike sort of route, but I was way over time. So my race was over, which was fine. You took it as it is. So it was 2017 was a year later that I tried for my next full Ironman. I was much better shape, but my mindset was different for that second attempt. And the way I saw it was, up until that point, I had the opportunity to train again for that full year. That's all I saw, is I have an opportunity to train. So when I started on that, this was in Barcelona, in a town called Calella in Spain. So I stood on the beach, waiting to go in for the swim. And my head was like, I'm already an Ironman. I just need them to confirm it. That was where my head is. But all I have at the moment is an opportunity to swim. That is it. I'm just given one opportunity to swim this swim course. If I manage to finish the swim, I then have an opportunity to cycle. I'm not guaranteed to finish. So that's my focus, is purely in the cycle. And if I finish the bike, I have an opportunity to run, and then I'll have an opportunity to finish. So it very much that sort of opportunity, and I use it now as like, well, what's the opportunity I have at the moment to share and talk to some people and hopefully learn something and then share something. So the opportunity right now, there's nothing beyond the opportunity that I have at the moment. So that is really what a fundamental part of what I do now, is that idea of an opportunity mindset that's right in front of us. The sort of last 2 that I have lessons is gratitude and joy. For me, like for a lot of people, doing anything for that length of time in an Ironman, took me I've done 2. The first one, it took me over 14 hours. The second one took me 15 hours. It sounds, people will be like, are you crazy? That sounds bonkers. You want to do anything physical activity for 14 hours? But it's as crazy it sounds to people, it gives me, and you see me smiling, gives me massive amount of joy to be able to do that, and what it gives me. And it's the knock-on effect with gratitude, because I'm so grateful for what my body can do. The other thing that I learned from Ironman with gratitude, very quick story, is relation to my better half. My wife has also done this, in sense of we both train together, we race together. So it's something we do together. And hers is a completely different story. But in that same race in 2016, so she did that race in 2016 in Chattanooga as well. And the heat, it did the same to herself. She didn't finish the bike course either. But we were both grateful that we came out of it and we were fine. So we had a further week in the States of a holiday. So the following day we flew to Atlanta, and the day after that we flew to Washington, DC to spend the rest of our holiday there. We were heading in Washington, then we're going to Philadelphia, Boston. She landed in Washington the morning, it was like a Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock. She didn't feel great. And I was like, well, you just tried an Ironman 2 days ago in 40-degree heat. You'd be fine. Let's just get to the hotel. we got to the hotel. She says, no, my stomach, I still don't feel great. I was like, well, okay, we had a whole day of planned and stuff in Washington, but it was like, okay, let's just sit for a minute. My classic of being in Ireland too long, have a cup of tea. You'll be fine. And she was like, no. So we just sat in the lobby, and she was like, okay, we got our room. We finally got our room. And she's like, no, I just don't want to go anywhere. Okay, we'll just sit. And she just wasn't getting any better. And throughout the day, and I was like, it's getting towards the evening. It was about 5 o'clock. I was like, we're gonna have to get a doctor out. You're not a sick person. You're very fit. The rest of it. So doctor came round. The doctor got to us about 7 o'clock in the evening, and he wasn't too sure. He's like, well, I think you need to go to hospital. So 8 o'clock in the evening, we arrived into the Sibley Memorial Hospital in Washington, D.C. At 10 o'clock that evening, my wife was diagnosed with appendicitis. And at midnight, she was rushed in for emergency surgery to have her appendix removed. At 1 a.m., the surgeon came out to me and said the operation had gone fine and everything was grand and my wife was recovering. But he said the appendix had swollen so much it had gone from the size of her hip all the way up into her ribs. So it's swollen to about 6 inches. The surgeon said that appendicitis would have been present when she was racing. And she got to 110 miles on the bike in 40 degrees. She'd been out in that heat for 10 hours. And we were parts of the middle of nowhere in Georgia. There would have been a hospital for 30 or 40 miles. So as the disappointment of not finishing that race, when I think of gratitude, is like that we were both literally still here, so those sort of moments of what you take from those stories or those moments in life, in a sense of like, we're grateful for absolutely what we've been able to do and what we have. So that's a huge lesson that I've taken from that whole journey. The last one, and this very much relates to this group, is the community and the people that I have met through Ironman, triathlon, fitness, anything. Is you meet people and you learn from them, you ask help, you share. There's an equality and an equity, even from the pros to the back of the packs, from the people who've driven forward and who are leading to the people who are just starting out. It's like, if you're a member of the community, you're a member. You're trying just as hard as anyone. And it's that sort of people that I've met from all over the world that I'm now friends with, from participating and learning from. That is probably my biggest thing that I've ever taken from Ironman. It's just that community. So thank you for listening, everybody, and take care.
Brilliant, James.
There's just so much. There's so much that you can take from there. I've been scribbling notes there, and I love the win. Everybody knows I love Friday wins. I love wins. I'd never heard of that. What's important now? I have that wrote down. Amazing. I'm just going to read out a couple of the chats before we say goodbye to our Facebook Live. So we do our breakout rooms. So it says, always searching for gratitude and joy. Amazing story. Thanks. Brilliant. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well done. There was a couple of ones there I seen. It's your dream, not theirs. Find people who support it, and the domino effect.
Absolutely.
What you said actually about when you were on the start line, I'm already an Ironman. I just need to confirm. I love that. Yeah.
Love it. And it's very true. And I'm going to echo what you just said there. Be very careful and mindful who you tell your dreams to, because there's a lot of dream stealers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't like, they feel then, oh, well, I'm not doing anything, and you're showing them up.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. But when we can and we will, we love to hear your dreams.
Absolutely.
And we're right behind you. So excellent. So thank you so much, James.
Thank you for the opportunity.